And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Sports. This is RBLR Bandits. My name is Eureka, and I am here with the one and only Zach Blaine. Welcome back, my friend. What's good, dude?
Oh, man. Exciting stuff coming to the Blaine house, you know. Had my last day of work here in Florida, getting ready for the move to Tennessee, so just ready to talk some football, get my mind off of that.
Yeah, the other football team here in Tampa Bay had a pretty good week with, Tom Brady coming back and that Super Bowl window being busted wide open again. For about 2 months, we were living in the world of
Kyle Trask.
It was not going to be fun. However, on our side of the ball, here at Bandits, we are less than 30 days away from opening week of the United States Football League. So hold on to that anticipation. For as much as the offseason is great for the Bucs, guess what, guys? We have less than a month until we are really going to see football in Birmingham with the Bandits on the helmet. That's insane. I have a little bit of reservations. We did get some news that we'll get into in a second, but they're kind of putting this together very, very quickly. So until I see some training camp photos and pictures, I'm going to be very scared on what week one is going to look like. How about you, Zach?
No, I agree. And I've said this in previous episodes of this, of our show, that as long as we get some football in, I'm going to be happy with it. I would love for this to play out, a whole season, multiple seasons. But I'm always going to be skeptical until it actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're trying to put all of this together way too quickly. But maybe that's the train wreck. We're going to be here for the ride. So whether they play 1 game, 0 games, or they actually do finish out as the Bandits, as the champions, we're going to be here for you every single week. And last week we talked about quarterbacks, running backs, and linebackers. So go back in the archives. If you haven't listened to that, find that episode. And while you're there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you'll get every episode that Zach and I do about the Bandits as soon as it drops. Well, let's get right into it. The coaching staffs were finally announced. We know who our head coach is. That's Todd Haley, and we got into him a little bit in last week's episode. But this week we know that Pepper Johnson is going to be our defensive coordinator, and Bob Saunders is going to be the offensive coordinator. Now, we still do not know if Todd Haley is going to be calling the plays or Bob Saunders is going to be calling the plays. I have a feeling it's going to be more Haley's brainchild. But let's start on the defensive side. Pepper Johnson, what have you seen? What do you like? What have you heard about Pepper Johnson as a defensive coordinator?
So you gotta like the pedigree. He's spent some time with the New England Patriots, and that's obviously, especially recently, is the best NFL team around. We've had some runs.
Pretty good.
Yeah, they're all right. But just to come from the Belichick coaching tree, it speaks volume to me anyway.
Yeah, he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots as a linebacker and defensive line coach. He moved on into the AFC East with the Bills as a defensive line coach. But then he became the defensive coordinator for the Memphis Express of the Alliance, so some spring league there. Then he also was shortly the defensive coordinator for the LA Wildcats in the XFL. So there was a little bit of a hiccup. Then again, who knows? The head coach there hasn't been brought up anywhere since the XFL folded a year ago. So, almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
But Pepper Johnson, though, immediately became the head coach at IMG Academy and now is back in professional football as a defensive coordinator. So most of the time, Pepper's in a 3-4 base. However, you brought up Bill Belichick. He and Belichick have used, obviously, multiple schemes during their time in New England. And even when Pepper was a D-line coach, they were in a 4-3 in the Bills. So it's not like he doesn't have a wide variety of defensive base formations. that he's been able to coach. But where do you see Pep? Now, you had kind of speculated last week on what you thought the shape of our defense was going to be. What are you thinking now that we actually know who the defensive coordinator is?
Yeah, so I feel like we may still be on track to run the 3-4, which is exciting to me because that's kind of what I predicted. I don't want to say called because we don't know anything yet, but I kind of predicted last week that would be our base, just going off of our linebackers and DNs. I think we're set up for that player personnel wise, and I feel like with the experience that he has in New England, I mean, with guys like Vince Wilfork and that, the line that he had and the linebacker core that he had there, I feel like it kind of sets him up to run it that way here. Granted, we don't have a Vince Wilfork to run nose tackle or anything, but yeah, I feel like that's going to be where we're at still.
Yeah, and on the other side of the ball, you've got Bob Saunders, who coached for Kansas City, Washington, St. Louis Rams, Cleveland Browns, and was a little bit of spring ball in his blood there. Was the DC Defenders wide receivers coach in the XFL. What did you see? What did you were kind of on the train in the text that we have. You were saying, "Hey man, Bob Saunders pretty good pickup." What do you like about Bob?
I mean, you're forgetting he coached the Virginia Destroyers.
That's true. He was. That's more spring league.
He
was in the UFL. I believe.
I believe. Yeah, that was back in 2010. So I think that was the UFL. Yeah. No, I just like that name. That's the only reason why I brought it up.
That's pretty good.
I think so. Looking back on him, I'm excited for him because of his time in Cleveland. And one of the players we're going to go over later, I'll explain why I'm kind of a little bit excited for that, because his time in Cleveland did overlap with one of the guys we're going to go over. Plus, look at the teams that he's coached. Aside from, and I say coach, obviously he was not head coach, but he was a coach of some capacity there. Cleveland likes to throw the ball up until they had Nick Chubb, obviously. The St. Louis Rams, again, it's a little bit past the time, but the greatest show on turf. You got teams, Kansas City, the Chiefs, they all like to throw the ball, which is kind of what you and I have both said in past episodes, is that we're going to be an air raid offense is what it's looking like. I think that, again, it's just kind of is playing into our hands how we expected Todd Haley to set up his staff.
Yeah, I agree with you there. When you look at the players, we've been looking, and we'll talk today about wide receivers and tight ends, about how all these guys have, they went to big schools and they have some, even if they haven't been on the field, most of them. They've been in camps, on practice squads. A lot of this team has NFL experience. So now you're bringing in two guys who have coached for quite a while at the top of the level. Even if they haven't been the one doing the X's and O's, they've been around for a long time. So I'm excited. I didn't think they dropped the ball. I was, again, I think that the way that the Bandits are being shaped up, they are not the team that's going to have the new up-and-coming, whiz kid kind of thing.
Yeah.
They want people who have experience on some level with success at a top level, even whether it's in college or at least been in the top level of the NFL. So, but that's going to be fun as we get into some of these wide receivers here. But there's one more piece of news, and that is the USFL. Put out the rivalries. I'll put this in quotation marks. The rivalries heading into what looks to be the week 2 matchups. So, are you excited for the Tampa Bay versus New Orleans Breaker Bay brawl?
Yes. I'm trying to be more excited about it. It plays well on the NFL. You know how we play New Orleans in the NFL, Tampa does. So it's like it kind of plays into that a little bit, I guess. But I will say I did get a little more excited when I saw the comic book-esque posters they put out. If you guys haven't checked it out on Twitter, I highly recommend it. They're
pretty cool.
They're very interesting. I don't see how we can have rivalries without playing a single snap of football, but I mean, it's great marketing. I think that they're doing their thing, and I'm appreciative of it because it's more than I've seen in other spring leagues.
Sure. Yeah. Manufactured rivalries aren't good. I mean, we do this in college, I think, sometimes. You know, like when Colorado left the Big 12 and went to the Pac-12, you know, they're like, oh, they're immediately blood rivals with Utah. And it's like, no. Like, no, they're not. Like, they're like, just because they're the two teams out in the middle of nowhere, like off the West Coast, like doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, we hate each other. It's like, no, we've earned, you know, Colorado, of course, earned their rivalries with Nebraska and Texas, Oklahoma, like those over years and years and years. So I get the marketing, but let's let the games work out. So I'm hoping, because this is just week 2, is what they're, so I get it. They need to promote their product. But like within a week or two, like let's start. Like, who are the top wide receivers? Who are the big, mean line? I mean, defense, I think, because we're putting this all together so quickly, defenses are probably going to be the stars of the first couple of weeks because it takes less to kind of feel out. You know, you could play a little bit off emotion, and as these wide receivers need to gel with their quarterbacks and whatnot. So let's get that like pro wrestling type. Like let me know who the big bad middle linebacker is and how he's gonna go eat this guy's lunch and whatever. We start learning the little intricacies of these offenses over a week or two, and then let's put together, you know, maybe not rivalries, but at least being like, okay, here's why every matchup is really cool, and give me more of these graphics, which I dig. So shout out to the author, to the artists who did all that. Like, shout out to all of them. It was really cool. But yeah, I'm not hyped for the Breaker Bay Brawl.
And the name is awful. Like let's be so honest. It is an awful name.
They're all pretty bad around the whole league. They're all, So the headline guys need to figure something else out. But yeah, I won't shovel any more dirt on this. But hey, you know what? They are trying though. You're
exactly.
Right. You're right.
That's the key to
it. They're doing something. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into, last week we talked about quarterbacks, running backs, and some linebackers. This week we're going to focus all on offense, and we're going to talk about wide receivers and tight ends. We have 9 guys to talk about today, and the first that I will bring up is the first draft pick. That is Eli Rogers out of Louisville. Talk about pedigree. Here's a dude who not just played in the NFL. He started 15 games in the NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers, played 30 games overall, as well as has some spring experience with the DC Defenders in the XFL. So for me, I mean, there's a reason he's the number 1 guy that we picked. He is explosive. This guy's quick. This guy, he will find the holes in zone coverage. He's not afraid to be again with a if he's got a corner and a safety on him, he will battle it out. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He's not afraid of linebackers. He's not afraid of in the box line safeties. Like, he will do what it takes. So you got a big heart and a big motor. Unfortunately, he's not a very big guy. He's kind of, for a wide receiver, he's got kind of a small frame, and his arms aren't very long, so he does have a kind of a small catch bubble or catch radius. And unfortunately, for as much as he will get down and dirty with you, he's not a very good blocker. So if we're running the ball and like on these outside runs that we think we're going to get with guys like Juwan Washington, they're not going to run it to his side of the field. So, but overall, man, this is a good pickup. I think he was a really solid wide receiver that we picked up, and he's got a resume, he's got pedigree, and he's going to be very, very quick. He's going to be a guy that can get down the field and exploit some zone defenses too, which I love because we have a very accurate quarterback. So those are my thoughts. I mean, other than being a little small, that's about it. That's about it. And like, if we didn't have Jordan Palmer, if we had Brady White, or if we had if throwing the ball to him, then well, I mean, but even Brady White's pretty accurate. Accuracy, I think, negates some of the downside of not being able to kind of reach out and go get a duck or a overthrown kind of thing. But if they can get it to him, he's going to catch it. And that's, I mean, for a wide receiver at this level, that is very, very huge. So if you got speed and you got hands, you're doing pretty well, because every one of these guys has butts, right? We talk about that all the time. But to be honest with you, at this level, I think he's going to be just fine. Who is your first wide receiver?
Yeah, just to touch on Rodgers real quick, I would say, normally last week I was asking you, who would you compare him to? Like, who would you compare him to in the league? I think the best way that you could compare him to anyone is just him. Like, he was in the league. He performed in the league. I just think that this is one of those things where, could he have gotten a shot in the NFL? Yeah, but maybe he has a better shot to prove himself here. And essentially, you're spot on. The only quarterback that will make him look bad, I think, at this point, is Paxton Lynch. Like,
we got it in there. That's the drinking game. We got it in there.
But no, my first guy, and this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of excited for Bob Saunders, is Derek Willis. He's a 6'4", which is the exact opposite of Rodgers. He has that typical size for a wide receiver. He is a little thin for 6'4" at 204 pounds. This is a guy who was signed as an undrafted free agent to play for Cleveland, which is where Saunders was the wide receivers coach at the time. So they have that relationship already. Even though it was only 1 year, it was right at the end of Saunders' time in Cleveland. But this is a guy who went to the University of Iowa, again, a relatively big school. Redshirted his freshman year. So his redshirt freshman year, he came in and caught 4 catches for 71 yards. Nothing amazing. So he ended up transferring to Trinity Valley Community College. I'm sure we've all heard of that, right?
Yeah, pretty good staple there.
And ended up being a junior college athletic association All-American there in his one and only year there. So then then transferred to Texas Tech, where over 2 seasons, he caught 36 passes for 592 yards and 5 touchdowns. Doesn't sound like a whole lot when you think about it long term, but it did get him enough recognition to be on that level as an undrafted free agent, which he ended up getting signed, like I said earlier, to the Browns. He played 2 years in Cleveland. He had 3 catches for 61 yards. I haven't found anywhere that really says negative things about him. Aside from, I have seen that he uses his body for catches, which is kind of a fundamentally flawed way to catch a ball as a wide receiver, and causes a lot of drop balls. But he is a little undersized to be 6'4", kind of wiry, I guess would be a good term to use. Just lanky. Okay. But he also has the reach to be able to do what Rodgers can't do. So I think that's going to be a good 1-2 punch.
I mean, Willis is a guy who's been compared to Roy Williams back in the day as a wide receiver because he's a big guy who's got speed.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if his size really translated to the NFL, but like, I mean, here's a guy who, other than he does take the ball in and he drops the ball. I think that was his one knock in the NFL, is that, like, unfortunately, for whatever reason, he did drop the ball. Now, has he fixed that in a couple years? Let's hope so. But didn't work out. But he got on the field. I mean, here's a guy who very few of these guys have been on the field in the NFL. And for him to have 6 games as a Brown, like, all right, let's go, man. And in this offense, which he's going to be used to, like coming out of Texas Tech. I mean, he's hopefully he gets reinvigorated with like the aerial assault that I assume that we're going to. Now, if we just come out running power I, then we're all going to look pretty stupid.
We're going to look very dumb.
We're really, really dumb. But I don't think so. I think the way that this is the kind of offense that they want to run, and he's the kind of wide receiver that can fit right into it.
Exactly. Agreed with you 100%.
Yeah. Another guy that speaking of high octane, Derek Dillon, the other Derek.
Speaking of Dereks.
Speaking of Dereks, yeah. Derek Dillon is a guy out of LSU that we drafted right after Derek Willis. He didn't play in the NFL, but he was in the practice squad for the Giants. He has not played spring ball for anybody, but here's a dude who ran a 4.29. I mean, he's blazingly fast.
Just a little.
So we talk deep ball. Here we go. We've said we've got explosive and speedy and all this kind of things like that, but this guy is very, very quick and can get down the field. Now, the thing is, why haven't you heard of this guy in a long time? Well, to be honest with you, he was kind of buried on the depth chart at LSU. I mean, he's got a ring. He was part of the championship team that Joe Burrow was but he's behind Jamar Chase. He's behind Justin Jefferson. He's so he. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to rise to that level for them in Baton Rouge, but he did all right, man. He's not very big though. He's 5'11", 185 pounds, so he's definitely speed is his weapon. His but is that he's very for a wide receiver. He's very small, and very like skinny. So. He was kind of a slot receiver in college. That's kind of where I see him pegged here in this league. I believe that he's definitely going to have a lot of opportunity to either go over the middle or out to the sideline. Again, we saw Tamu being able to throw that ball to the sideline. This might be one of his biggest threats. Man, I mean, you talk about 4.29. Now we're maybe even talking if for some reason he falls down the depth chart because of the other wide receivers that we're going to talk about. Is there a kick returning opportunity in his future? Because what we haven't seen, but for me is that he hasn't proven himself anywhere. He didn't rise above a Lamar. I mean, okay, let's look who we're talking about here. But he didn't get over Lamar Chase or Justin Jefferson in college. When he's in the NFL, he never really made a roster. He didn't rise above even the bottom of the barrel level in the NFL. So, to be honest with you, we just don't know what the ceiling is for him. But there's a lot of raw tools that I saw out of Derek here.
Yeah, and I think it just plays more into everyone here, whether they played a whole bunch there or not. Almost every single person on our roster, and actually I would be willing to say every person on our roster, aside from maybe the kickers who we haven't gone over yet, they've all gone to big schools, which means that they've been coached by some of the best. Like you said, he's caught passes from Joe Burrow. Not sure if you guys know who he is, but one of the best up-and-coming quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So it just plays into that more and more. The more that I look at it, the more that I'm thinking, like, this team is essentially, I'm putting it in quotes, stacked, because we don't know all the other competition yet. But it's looking like we're one of the top teams just based off schools looking at it on paper.
Well, definitely Vegas has us up there, depending on what power ranking or betting site you use. Like, it's basically us and Michigan.
Yeah.
We're number 2. Michigan's number 1. Everyone else is a crapshoot depending on where you go bet them. So I think they're seeing the same thing you're looking at, which is just like, well, if you talk about pedigree or whatever, basically like what have you done before, we have a lot of it. And so this is one of the few guys that they have pedigree, but we just don't know what. Exactly.
Yeah, how much pedigree? Like,
I mean, you've been in the room in a lot of good places, right? But now that he has an opportunity to be the number 3 receiver on this team, is he going to rise to that to the challenge, or are we going to see someone else go over him? Who's your next wide receiver to talk about?
So my next guy is someone that most of us probably haven't heard of, but the player comparison to him from his combine, I'm sure you guys have heard of. The guy I'm going over now is Jordan Lastly, who has been compared to, and this is going to be another deep threat, Mr. Torrey Smith.
Okay.
I'm sure if you're a football fan in general, you've probably heard the name. But Torrey Smith was a guy on the Ravens who was just known for catching ridiculously deep balls from Joe Flacco. Like he was a speed guy who, when he got deep, he was gone. There was no catching him. So on to Jordan Lastly real quick. He is a 6'1", 203-pound back, or 203-pound receiver, excuse me. Out of UCLA. Y'all knew I couldn't go a whole episode without a Pac-12 team. I had to do it. But he is a guy who played out in UCLA. At the combine, he ran a 4.5 40, so I'm not quite sure where they're getting the Torrey Smith comparison, because Torrey Smith was known for going deep, but I don't picture a 4.5 guy going deep all the time. He did end up getting drafted by the Ravens in the 5th round, pick 162. And he's one of the guys that he didn't make any NFL team. He did make the practice squad for a few teams, but he's one of the guys that kind of showed potential. He had a combine grade of 5.9, which is right at special teamer / quality backup on the NFL website. So the negatives with him, though, are he's skinny, so 6'1", 203 pounds. Again, a relatively small guy for being 6 foot, 6 foot plus, I should say. And he also, again, just to go back in, he dropped 21 passes from catching balls body. Another guy who has a tendency to catch with his body, which, did he fix that? We'll see. That's kind of the downs for him. And aside from that, though, he did average 8.8 yards a catch in 2017 on UCLA. So he's a guy, he's going to get us first downs. I think will be able to slide into that slot role right there, kind of with Derek Dillon, and I think that's going to be an interesting battle to watch. Who gets that 3rd spot?
Well, I think with Lastly too, one thing I did want to bring up is that he's got great athleticism. He's tremendously explosive, but one of his buts is off-field stuff. I mean, famously, he fought a teammate in Baltimore practice. He just, I'm really hoping that was the biggest thing, and that maturity is, which, I think we're all different than we were 5-10 years ago.
100%.
Right. So I'm hoping that this is just true of a lot of young people, men in particular, that maybe this humbling experience, maybe being out of the NFL and this being his second shot, or at least this is his chance to get back on there and to get more game film up there. I'm hoping that he takes this chance. So, because everything you just said, I mean, very, very nice. I mean, raw tools right there, good size, just good athleticism. Let's go. But can you stay on the field? Can you just not drop the ball? Can you stay on the field? And can you be a good teammate? So we'll see, because look, there's going to be a lot of these kind of guys that are, everyone we're saying is like raw tools, great athleticism, it's like, well, why aren't all these guys in the NFL? And it's like, well, part of it is there's always new batch of young, awesome wide receivers and stuff coming into the league every year, and you have to fight and claw to keep your spot. But if you're not a good teammate, if you fight your teammates, if you're not an upstanding model, you better be Antonio Brown to stay on the team.
Well, even he now, so
and he ain't in the damn league either. So it's like, okay.
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I don't know why I looked over it, but you're 100% right. His off the field issues have been an issue since dating back to high school. One of his negatives that I missed was long history of poor decision making and self control dating back to high school, multiple suspensions. So I think you again nailed it right on the head when you say we all mature. I get it. Like I'm sure when I was 18 in high school, 17 in high school, I was making dumb decisions. Maybe not decisions to get suspended over or anything, but we were all making dumb decisions. Let's just hope that his time doing that is done, and he realized, well, you know, maybe I should be a good dude.
Yeah, we're hoping. Well, if he happens to get into a tiff with somebody in the locker room, the one thing I would suggest that he does is he grabs a gift for his teammates, and that would be a T-shirt from our shop at shop.rblrsports.com, where if he were able to go there, if Jordan were to go there, and he would be able to pick up all the swag representing all of our Tampa Bay teams. We've got stuff in the colors of our soccer, baseball, football, hockey, you name it. It's all there at shop.rblrsports. And for you, the listener, you know, it's not just Jordan. He's in on the action here. You could get in too with a promo code BANDITBALL. BANDITBALL, Bandit Ball, and you're going to get 10% off your order. So that's all you got to do, man. There's a link right in the description of this episode. If you have it, if you need to, one, just update your wardrobe or maybe give a gift to someone that you either like, love, or fought at a mini camp, you could do that at the link right in this description. So, well, another guy that might need a shirt is Vinnie Papale. Okay, Vinnie Papale is a dude that I think is gonna. We talk about unproven. Here's a dude who really needs to get some game film and hasn't been able to do that a lot. Even in college, unfortunately, he was injured for 2 years of his college when he went to Delaware. So really, what do we know about Vinnie Papale? Well, we know that he's the son of former NFL wide receiver Vince Papale, who has a Disney movie they made. Mark Wahlberg played his dad in a movie, and I'm sure he he was a kid when they made that movie. He's even said that he didn't really know what was going on at the time. He's just like, okay, cool. And it wasn't until he got to college that it really sunk in with him about how hard what his dad did was, because his dad didn't go to college. His dad didn't play college football. So at least in terms of on the field stuff, we know Vinny's a 6 foot tall, 204 pound wide receiver who ran a 4.58 40. And growing up, his idol was Wes Welker, and I think that's where I see him fitting in from what little I have seen of Vinnie Papale. There's not a lot to go on here, but again, I said in Delaware, he broke his leg his freshman season, and then he tore ligaments in his right knee the next year. So we have just multiple years where he's not even on the field. He did come back from those injuries, and as a senior, he had 36 catches for 618 yards and 6 touchdowns. Again, the Delaware Mud Hens, not exactly the top level of collegiate football. So still, we don't really know what's going on. But he was an invitee to Raiders and Washington Commanders camps, but he never ended up signing with either of those teams. But here's a cool thing. When he was in Raiders camp, he was invited to Raiders camp with Jordan Ta'amu. So maybe, I don't know, I'm fishing for whatever I can find here.
I love it.
Maybe there's some chemistry there, right? Maybe maybe the reason he's in Bandits gear is because Jordan Ta'amu said, hey man, if we're just going to be bringing in wide receivers, I mean, I know this guy.
From Delaware.
He's in Delaware. Yeah, come on, who doesn't love Delaware? And to be fair, too, he would have had more spring experience. In May of 2020, he did sign with Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League, but they canceled the 2020 season. And then 2021, they really didn't have a lot of foreigners in the Canadian Football League.
Damn you, Canada.
Well, yeah, right. So here's a guy that just has not had a good deal of it, man. I mean, in college, he got hit with the injury bug. When he came out, he's big, but he's not fast. So couldn't really make the cut in the NFL. And to be fair, I don't know if he is NFL quality, but when he was gonna get his chance in the CFL, where they pass all over the place, COVID happened. So it's just like, all right, well, so here's a guy who's been waiting 4 years for his second chance, right? Another guy I'm hoping is hungry. I'm hoping can figure it out. And it's a story. This is a guy that I'm definitely going to be watching. So Vinnie Papale, man, we're rooting for you. And I hope that you can rise to the challenge, buddy.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me with him, and it's not necessarily just him, we have a lot of guys that are in that, 6 foot, the 5'9" to 6 foot area that are right at 200 pounds. So we've got 3 of those guys that are kind of running that same style of play, that are all running the same type of 40, the same, like all their skill sets are basically the same. So I think the three from Derek Dillon, Jordan Lastly, and Vinnie Papale is going to be an interesting outcome to see where they play and what order they're in on that roster.
And maybe he's a special teams guy.
That's a chance too.
Because to be honest with you, like the couple guys we're about to talk about, to be honest, I think they're going to rise above him on the depth chart. And so now he's the 5th, 6th, 7th down the list.
Exactly.
And we even have a tight end. We even have a tight end that can play wide receiver. So, which we'll get into today. So again, this is why this is his chance to finally put some game film at a professional level against the top talent. If he can, I think he's going to get a shot, considering that we don't have. I mean, he's going to have to really impress in camp.
Yeah.
Because again, we're 30 days away from opening week, man. Like, so there's not going to be a lot of time for these guys to move up and down the depth chart in a mini camp or a training camp. It's like you better be. He better have the playbook in his hand and learning everything he can, because that's if he doesn't give it 100 and 100,000%, that he's not going to make the roster. So.
Exactly, and you mentioned the guys that we're about to talk about next. My next guy is you guys listening that are coming over from the Tampa podcast, the Bucks podcast, I should say. Probably know a little bit about this guy, Mr. John Franklin III. Tampa kid, well, Tampa-ish kid. He went to high school at South Plantation High School in Plantation, Florida. Was originally born in Germany, which is kind of cool. But he is a guy who has NFL experience, also has experience with being on camera. So he's a guy who is not shy about talking himself up. He originally went to Florida State, where he ran on the track team. Then he transferred to East Mississippi Community College, which was the first season of Last Chance U. Great show. If you guys haven't watched it, highly recommend. But he was one of the stars on that show, again, because of his Antonio Brown-esque mentality, I'll say. Yeah. He thinks he's the best, which I'll get into that in a little bit. But he then transferred to Auburn. He played a season at Auburn, and then transferred to Florida Atlantic as a graduate transfer. I would like to – you heard all of those schools that I just mentioned, and at one of those schools he played wide receiver. Only at Florida Atlantic did he actually play wide receiver. He played quarterback at Florida State, East Mississippi Community College, and Auburn. Pretty big schools to play quarterback at. So the positives on him: he is 6'1", very skinny though, 186 pounds. I'm sure he's probably put on a little bit of muscle or something, but he is a track star basically. He ran for Florida State on the track team. He is a very, very quick guy. He also, just to give you an interesting little stat, he's averaging 11 yards per rush in the NFL. It is one rush for 11
I
yards.
was gonna say, how many rushes is that? Big
It
guy?
is one rush for 11 yards, but he can play running back.
Sure,
No,
yeah, buddy.
but
Come on.
but to be realistic, he is probably the most athletically gifted player on the team in terms of just his skill set. He played for the Chicago Bears. He played corner and safety. He was considered a corner, but he took reps at safety. Never in a game, but on the team he was rostered as a defensive back. In college, he played quarterback and wide receiver. In the NFL, he's played corner and wide receiver. So he's got the talent. The issue with him has also off the field, not as crazy as fighting your teammates or anything, but again, to throw back to Tampa times, he wasn't technically on the team at the time of him getting in trouble, but he was in that Antonio Brown, Mike Edwards COVID card debacle, which we don't have to talk about that. COVID's a hot topic. I'm gonna stay away from that. But he was suspended for misrepresentation of vaccination status. So
dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb, and that's why again he has the ability. He is a very gifted athlete. If he can get out of his own head and just do what he's got to do and stay on track, I think that he has a chance to be a difference maker on this team.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he can play on both sides of the ball. If we're talking special teams, it's a number of places you can play him there. You can do some weird Wildcat stuff if that's in the game plan. You know, we talked about RPO stuff that we might see out of this Haley offense. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, maybe not every down, but he can throw the ball a little bit. He can catch the ball. He can play defense. He can. I mean, it's just there's a lot. He can pretty much play everywhere on the field. And that's awesome, man. So I'm excited to see what JF3's got and what we have for him. Other than the only reason he didn't get more playing time with the Bucs is because he had a leg injury. But
I mean, and we were stacked at receiver.
Of course,
Yeah.
like breaking the roster as a wide receiver is going to be very tough. But with him, you know, he could play everywhere. So it's like if you have the Swiss Army knife that you can play in a bunch of different positions, and even then, like I think they had a role for him on the team. It's just he got injured, and that's why he didn't play. So we'll see what he can do on this Tampa Bay team. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. And again, hopefully the knucklehead stuff's behind him, and that we can focus on football and getting him back up to the NFL because he's a guy. He's getting a little older, but still. I don't think the window is closed. If he can take the USFL by storm and just show out for the Bandits, then someone maybe this year will have a spot for him in the NFL.
I could definitely see it.
Yeah. My next guy that I'm going to talk about actually played in the NFL, Keith Mumphrey. He was a guy who was drafted in the 5th round by the Houston Texans. He's a guy who had 24 receptions for 198 yards and 618 return yards. Keith Mumphrey, again, could be a little special teams action here. And he's got some spring ball experience. He played in the XFL with the St. Louis Battlehawks, and their quarterback was Jordan Ta'amu. So he's got a little bit of history there with our quarterback. Mumphrey's a dude who's 6 foot tall, 215 pounds, runs about a 4.5, 4.40. He's known for being an on-field leader. He's a big-time run-blocking wide receiver. He loves to drop the hammer. If you run that toss play, run it on Mumphrey's side because he wants to crack the hell out of a safety or whoever is in his way. But for being 5.440, he's not exactly like just for some reason in the game film it doesn't come out that he's very quick. Like he's not very explosive. And maybe there's just sometimes people when they're in pads they don't run a 4.540 like they do when they're in shorts on a track field or whatever, you know. But just in the game film, I guess why is he so low on the depth chart? And I think it's just because he doesn't get separation. He as much as he is a fighter and he will fight to get to the ball, and when he's in traffic, he will, like, he's comfortable, like, fighting a dude or two dudes to get to the ball. Like, he's very good concentration to do all that. It's just that he's always in that situation where he always is around one or two guys. He can't break away from a receiver. He can't get out of the coverage because he's not very nimble. And I guess his other but is that thankfully he's got Jordan Ta'amu to throw him the ball. And if Jordan continues to be very accurate, he'll be okay. But Keith tends to drop balls or not get to balls that are outside of his catching radius. If it's too high, too low, too far, he's not going to get to it. So you got a wide receiver that isn't explosively quick, can't separate from some guys, or at least he wasn't able to do that at the NFL level, and you have to really put it in his breadbasket for him to haul it in. So those are the first things that I'm saying I'm hoping to see an upgrade in. I'm hoping to see him get a little bit of magic, get a couple moves under his belt that gets him some separation between either safeties or slot corners or linebackers or whoever's going to be putting him in there. I want to see that separation, and I want to see him that he's worked on catching the ball in awkward situations, like where it's not perfect. I want to make sure that you can catch this ball. So that's my scouting report on him. But I love that he is like, as a football player, he's like, he's not a diva. He wants to get in there.
Yeah.
He wants to cause some havoc. He wants to hit somebody. Like, yeah, let's go.
I feel like that's important.
But at this level too, man, I mean, like, I'll take anything. I'll take any little, what separates you from the guy across from you. And if you just want it, and you're against some corner who's been cut from 5 NFL teams and whatever, and like, and whatever your but is across from you, if he wants to use that motor, get to the spot, and if the ball is in there and he gets it up, that's what the USFL is probably going to be. It really is a bunch of strengths and weaknesses in real time. So I'm excited. I think that as a lower draft pick of this team, I think that Keith Mumphrey has some potential on special teams, some potential on as a fourth receiver, and we'll see at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he fits into that. Like, I hate to say it, but he's another one of those guys that fits into that role for Vinnie Papale and Jordan Lastly. He's that same 6 foot tall, 215, but I think that he's, without making an actual prediction, I think that he's one of the guys that, again, can probably fill that slot role and has the chance to be the slot guy.
Yeah.
But my next guy out of Arkansas, I'm going to try to pronounce his name. I believe it is Shane.
Is it Cheyenne?
That's what I was. I have
like the capital.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Cheyenne. He goes by CJ. So we're just gonna call him CJ O'Grady. Right. Great Irish name. You guys can't see it right now, but I have a bright red beard. Huge fan of Irish people. But O'Grady, great name. Another guy with legal troubles. Cannot stay on the field. I'm going to go over his weaknesses first because I think those stand out more to me than his strengths. He played at Arkansas. I should have led with that, but he was an Arkansas kid who was suspended 3 separate times while at Arkansas and left the team in November of his last season. I know he was arrested for DWI while at Arkansas. So again, I know he was a college kid, so I don't want to harp on him too bad, but those are not decisions that make you a successful NFL player or even a successful professional in general.
Right.
Aside from just the off the field stuff, he is not the best at run blocking, which leads me to think even more that we're going to be an air raid offense, and he's kind of average off the ball as far like off the snap. Off the ball speed is not very is not above average by any means. Now to his strengths, he is 6'4", 253 pounds. Pretty big boy.
Let's go.
Yeah, he ran a 4.8 140, so he's not going to be a Kyle Pitts down the field or anything, but average speed for a tight end. He does have very long arms, and one of his strengths is that it doesn't really pair too great for Te'amu because he is a very accurate quarterback. But if for some reason he throws a duck and it's a little wide, he's very good at bringing the ball in and extending the catchable rate of a football because he's not stationary. And different from the other guys I've talked about catching the ball today, he does use his hands to catch the ball, which is a positive. I think that playing on the field wise, he's very, very competitive, and he's going to be a very, very good player. My concerns are off the field, and I don't know that he's going to learn. Like, to be suspended 3 separate times, if it were a one-time deal, I'd be like, okay, people mess up, they learn. For you to be suspended 3 separate times on the same team and then just leave the team early, I don't know. As a character trait, I don't know that shows a very good maturity level, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it was just whoever was the coach there, that him and this other guy just didn't get along, but mixed in with just dumb stuff that college kids do. Yeah, I mean, it's like, unfortunately, like you can't teach someone to get their crap together. Like
exactly.
You know, like as much as you want to try and help, like these guys, and we've talked about a few of these guys today, like they hopefully them not being in the NFL is their rock bottom. Like, not to like trivialize that, but I'm hoping that that's like the epiphany of like, whoa, okay, I had all this talent, and my talent got me to Arkansas. You know, my talent got me to D1 football. My talent got me this way. But then when you're cut, you get not drafted, you get not signed, you get cut from these things, you know, like hopefully these are the moments that make you go, okay, here's the comeback. I'm going to get my stuff together. I'm going to get the people surrounding me, whatever that support system needs to be. Because a lot of this is off the field stuff with CJ, man. Because on the field, like, yeah, he's not exactly the quickest guy, but for being as big as he is, super athletic, can catch a ball. I mean, huge red zone threat. I mean, just like, he's tough, and he catches the ball, and he's big, and he's you know, for as big as he is, he's okay. Like, he's not. I wouldn't say he's like a bullet train, but he's not exactly like Refrigerator Perry out there. Like, I mean, he's big, but like he's got tools. Don't get me wrong, and that's why he was the number 1 tight end picked for the Bandits here. But I'm hoping that it's just one of these things where we put it together and maybe get a little on the field, get a little better technique on the field, get a little bit out of quickness off the line of scrimmage. Because once he gets going, he's okay. But you know, I'm hoping that on the field we get it, and we get a lot of focus off the field to keep it going. So, but 100% great scouting report on him, sir.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Well, he better get his stuff together, because the guy that's on his heels is the other tight. I'm going to put quotation marks here. Tight end that they drafted, and that's DeQuan Hampton. The reason I say that is because DeQuan Hampton actually is a 6'4", 225-pound wide receiver that for some reason was labeled as a tight end, and it was kind of like it felt like we were cheating when we drafted this dude, because I'm like, wait a second, they're saying he's a tight end, which yeah, okay, but this dude is We were talking about this off air. I mean, this dude gets me hype. Okay, he's big. He's really big. Actually, sorry, not 225. Sorry, he's 245. Sorry, he's 6'3".
A little off.
6'3", 6'4", 249. So he's a big ass dude. Okay, but he if you look up the draft profiles on this guy, there's like no weaknesses in terms of like what does he do wrong? Okay, well he catches the ball. He's got sure hands. He can run routes really, really well. He has a amazingly large catch radius that like you can't underthrow him, overthrow him. Like it doesn't matter. He'll get it. He can catch with one hand. He gets great bursts off of the line of scrimmage. He catches the ball away from his body. He does not allow it to get to his chest. He has solid fundamentals when it comes to catching that. And when he gets the ball, he secures it. He does like his right arm more than his left arm. But other than that, it's like, I don't believe this guy is not in the NFL. I don't believe that he wasn't drafted earlier in this draft. I can't believe that this dude is not like somewhere else. I mean, this guy is like just laying around in the end of these drafts, and but I mean, if I'm nitpicking, I'm like, he's a big ass dude, and he runs a 4.66 40. So this is where I start to say, oh, now I get it. And here's why. He's like too big and too slow to be a tight end, but he's too damn athletic. He's too good of a pass catching like receiver to just be like the dude you slap on the end of the line and like, you know, and like have him run block.
Yeah.
Like the dreams of Heath Miller's running down the seam, the dreams of these tight ends who have done so well in Todd Haley offenses, they just come flying out. It's like, I'm like, hell yeah, Quan Hampton is going to be, he's a weapon, man. I mean, and here's a guy. So we talk about pedigree. He's been in Detroit camp. Or at least practice squads for Detroit, New Orleans, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a wide receiver in the XFL for the LA Wildcats, and he even played before that in the AAF for the San Diego Fleet. So he's a guy comes out of USC. So we have big school pedigree, has played in 3 different NFL practice squads. He's played in all the spring leagues of the last 3-4 years. So it's just, where do we fit him in? Like, I think that scheme is going to be a lot of where he fits in, because it's like, if you get him the ball, if you can get him into a good scheme that gets him through whatever coverage, and you're able to deliver the ball to him, he's going to catch it. And to be fair, I really think he's just this, like, he was crafted to be one of these old school red zone threats, right? Unfortunately, in NFL, the game has changed where they're not really playing in between the 20s anymore. They're 20. They're not playing in the red zone. The game today is the quick 40-yard just bombs, and once you get past midfield, you know, you're really going for the end zone more than anything. So with today's NFL game, I see now it starts to get put together about why he's not in the NFL. However, at this level, I think we stole him at the end of these rounds. I think that it's like, oh, buddy, he definitely has upside to move up this depth chart, or at least if we're going to run 2 tight ends or something a few times, you got a big dude over here that's got a high motor, and you got another dude over here that can catch anything you throw at him. So pretty damn good tight end room for the Tampa Bay Bandits.
Yeah, I think our whole offense is going to be very solid. I'm very confident in that.
The ceiling's very high.
Yeah, the ceiling is high, and my fear is that the floor is very low.
Right. So, like, the worst case scenario is we got a bunch of injury risk guys who are too small, they can't catch the ball, they drop the ball, or they fight each other.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. At least we know. At least we know JF3 is vaccinated now, so we're good.
Oh no. So this is what a horrible situation. So, but like. That's the floor. So there's the train wreck. If you're watching the USFL for the train wreck, there it is. But there's a very, very high ceiling on the other side. So, but the number one person that I'm looking out for, and that's you listening to this right now. You listening to this on your car ride to work or back from work, wherever you're hearing us. We thank you. We say. There's only one other thing. We appreciate you've stuck around this long. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to our voice, whether that's on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, or YouTube. We are on all the major platforms, so go there right now. Please, please, please hit that like and subscribe button. But I mean, Zach, final thoughts for the listeners and for all of us as we have wrapped up the wide receivers and tight ends for the Tampa Bay Bandits.
Yeah, I think you covered it all. And like Eureka said, I tell you guys this every week. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we love the fact that you guys care enough to listen to us. It means a lot, and give us likes and follows is awesome, and we just appreciate you guys.
So from all of us here at RBLR Sports, we love covering our Rowdies who just started. Our Rays just started spring training. The Buccaneers just got Tom Brady back. The Lightning are out here making big trades right now at the trade deadline. All of our teams, we are here, and we are here to cover them for you. So we really hope we're giving you the 5-star content that you crave. So for Zach Blaine, for myself, Eureka Wheeler, and all of us here at RBLR Sports, we say thank you, and of course, let's ride, Bandits.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.